Hey guys, my name's Dan Dunham. I'd like to share with you a product that I just ran into. It's from Arylic, and it's called the Up2Stream 2 amp. I'm going to go through in this first video and just kind of share with you how it's packaged and some of the features that come with the amp. So let's break right into it. If we take a look here, we've got a nice little remote packaged in there. Typical power supplies, and we've got a real nice powerful power supply that'll do automatic 240, 110, 50 or 60 hertz. So that's a nice power supply built right into the kit. Then we've got our board itself in a nice static pack, and a good solid connector for the speaker wires, amplifier, and a nice instruction manual that goes through the installation and features and how to operate it. So from there, let's take a look at some of the features that you get in this board. It really is a nicely made board. It comes with 2 antennas built in. Let's just kind of go around the board itself. We've got our power supply, we've got our speaker connectors. Nice, again, it's a nice solid connector, so you're not going to break those off easily. We've got an input, that's an analog input there. We've got a digital input, your typical USB digital input. We've got an RJ45 network connector, so you can actually wire this directly into your system. Then moving around the board, we've got a Wi-Fi, our Wi-Fi unit that you can use for any Wi-Fi connectivity, and then of course we've got a Bluetooth connectivity as well. If you take another look over here, this big heat sink, this is the 50 by 50 watt into 4 ohms power amplifier that's built right into this board. So you can see here all the power amplifier componentry is pretty solid. It's got some nice capacitance, so you're not going to run out of juice when you crank the volume up. So in later videos, I'm going to review this board, review how it's installed into my project, and then review the sound quality of using the USB, the Ethernet, the Wi-Fi, and all the different features that this board has. One nice thing I like about this board a lot is that you can actually put a bunch of these boards in a box, and you could actually build out a whole house Wi-Fi system, streaming system for your house with this product. So it really makes it very simple to build out some of these whole house systems if that's the direction you want to go. However, I'm not going that direction in my build. I'm actually going to take an old cassette player. You can see it's all torn apart here. I'm actually going to install this inside of this unit because I really like the look of it. It's got a nice vintage look. I'm building out a vintage system that this is going to fit really nicely into. So we'll take a look at that in just a second. Okay, so this is the vintage cassette deck that I'm going to place this unit in. I'm going to get some high quality streaming. I think we're all fairly familiar with streaming to the phone, streaming maybe to some receivers that you might have already in your system. So what I was looking for was something that I can integrate into a room easily. It might be through a unit like this, or maybe even a smaller unit. But the great thing about this power amplifier built in is that I can have all the streaming functionality integrated into this single box and run speakers that I happen to have a lot of. I can use any old speaker pretty much out there. So I don't have to have an active speaker. This is not a low-level output device only. It really does give you the flexibility in a small form factor to have a power device and use passive speakers as well. So that's one of the main reasons I found or really like this company, and I think they're doing something pretty cool. So stick around. Hope you enjoy it, and we'll see you in the next video. Thanks.
So the next section of this review is really going to talk about the overall sound quality of the board. It's pretty amazing to me that such a small package can deliver such good quality sound. When you consider you've got a streamer built in, you've got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all these different technologies built into a board that also has a digital power amplifier in it. It's amazing the ability that this has to produce good quality music. Alright, so there's a few different genres that I went through in testing the quality of the music. On this first setup, of course, I've got these little Optimus 11 speakers that are pretty indicative of what you might see in a bookshelf type system. They're 5-inch woofers, silk dome tweeters. They've got a fairly decent sound, but they really kind of lack that low bass quality, if you will. So they're not room filling speakers. I would say if you have a large room, obviously it's not a real good test. But for a lot of bookshelf type speakers, I think this test was pretty accurate. So the first thing I really tested out on this is classical music. What really surprised me about this package is that it had a very smooth quality to it. It didn't have any kind of digital quality, if you will. I was surprised at just how smooth and accurate the music came through. So that was a big surprise for me. It was a very pleasant surprise, and you know, that's something that I really didn't expect. The next genre I moved on to was jazz, and I was really listening for the detail and the punch and the ability for the amp section to reproduce a lot of the drum notes and the cymbals and some of the very high dynamic range type music. And it didn't disappoint in this respect either. I found the detail to be excellent. You could hear the cymbal brushes in the background and the music very well detailed. You could hear the drums come in with punch. There wasn't any muddiness or anything like that going on, even though it retained that smoothness that I first noted in the classical music that I listened to. You could hear the breath of the saxophone player in the background. So there was a lot of great detail coming through. So I really enjoyed that aspect. The next genre I moved on to was classical rock. I played a little bit of heavy metal. And this is where I think the speaker themselves kind of let me down. These little 5-inch woofers just didn't have the punch to bring rock and roll through the way I would like to listen to it. So in the next section of this review, or the next review of sound quality, I'm going to hook it up to some definitive BP30s I've got, and they're a much harder load to drive. So we're really going to see just how this little 25 by actually 50 by 50 watt into 4 ohms, just how well that's going to drive a much larger speaker. I don't expect it to be ear bleeding volume. That would be ridiculous. But we're going to see just how much of that dynamic range and accuracy this little amp can play. So kind of coming back to these little Optimus 11s, they played this room, which is about a 15 by 15 room, to the point where it was loud. Obviously they don't have the bass quality that I'm looking for in rock and roll speakers, but that's okay. I don't think that that's actually the sweet spot for this amplifier. I don't think I'm going to put this into a device that I'm going to expect ear bleeding volumes of rock and roll or heavy metal or whatever to be produced. That's just not the sweet spot. I'm kind of thinking this little guy is going to be fantastic for whole home audio, I could see putting a rack of 5 or 7 or however many zones you have into a single box and have an amp built in with individual streamers for every zone. So for those types of applications, or maybe more of a background music type application, or maybe just a desktop streamer, something like that, this is a fantastic choice. Okay, so let's move on to something that's a little harder to drive. The BP30s, I think, are really going to give this thing a workout, and that's going to come up next. Thanks for watching. Okay, so let me introduce you to the setup I've got running right now. I've got the Pioneer tape deck with the Arylic card inside of it. Got the BP30s by Definitive Technologies. I've had these speakers a long time. I really like the sound of it, and I know what they sound with like with a lot of different technologies. So I started listening to these with Adcom GFA 555 amps, about 200 watts per channel. I then switched out to Marantz receivers. I started doing home theater with them at that point. And then I had a Yamaha receiver for a time, and as well as a Harman Kardon receiver. So I've heard a lot of different electronics with these speakers. I gotta say, this little amplifier sounded fantastic with these speakers. They're not terribly hard speakers to drive, but they're a whole lot more exacting, if you will, than the Minimus 11s that I showed you in the last video. So very impressed with this thing. It really does a fantastic job. So as expected with the BP30s, which is a vastly different speaker, most of the qualities I felt like I heard on the Minimus 11s were present as well. So specifically, what am I talking about? It really retained the smooth characteristic of the overall sound. Again, it didn't have any kind of a harsh or digital feel to it at all, and it really was very pronounced when listening to classical music as well as jazz music. Where I felt like it had a little bit of trouble was in the deep bass, in the very loud transients with bass. Even with his very loud transients, usually with a lot of bass, you get that bass, but it doesn't have the gut punch that you're going to get with a more powerful amplifier. I think that really kind of was shown when I played back on the BP30s. They're a lot bigger speaker. They take a lot more to drive them. But I was amazed really at how good this board sounds with this tiny little amp, even with the larger speakers. It really had a nice sound stage, good stereo separation. There really wasn't any issues there whatsoever. If the recording was good, it shone through with this amplifier and streaming setup. It's pretty amazing to me that something in such a small package can sound so good. You're going to be very happy with the results, especially if you're using it for background music or whole house audio applications, even mobile applications. Let's say you're running this off of a battery system and you're using it in kind of a Jambox setup or scenario. You're going to be really happy with this overall package for streaming as well as amplification. It does a fantastic job. There's one place where I feel like it struggled a little bit, and that is with usually heavy metal rock and roll, loud rock and roll with complex bass tracks. You really kind of notice the lack of power. After all, it's about 50 watts into 4 ohms, which makes it about 25-ish watts into 8 ohms. So just keep that in mind. I'm really happy that I put that in this Pioneer tape deck. This is going to make a great package for my office system. So, okay, so now I'm going to talk about the interface for the Apple products. And so far, they've been pretty darn close to what you'd expect to see on Android as well. They look pretty much identical. There's a few little nuances of how it works, so it's probably worth taking a look. Alright, so again, it searches for the wireless system, comes up to this standard screen that you might expect. It's currently in Bluetooth mode. I don't want to use it in Bluetooth mode, so I'm going to switch on over to Pandora, and we'll just see what comes up here, and see my same basic list, and it'll start playing. And I'll just pause that, and again, you've got your volume control here. Again, it's very responsive. It works pretty much the same, so flick back to the left and you get your basic play page, and then you can go in and adjust your equalizer settings to whatever you might like, right? So I have noticed that it's the app on the Apple platform just seems a little more stable. That could very well be due to my phone. It's a 4-year-old phone, and it's on Android 8, so that could explain some of that. But it's very smooth on the Apple products. Same thing here with Spotify. It brings up the Spotify app. You play your music through that app, and so that works quite well. Now, the one thing I like about how the Apple product works is that, let's say you want to stream something out of YouTube or some other app that you can actually cast with. So let's just see how that works here. We'll just use this video and let it start up here. And while it's thinking about not starting for some reason, I don't know, we'll just use something else here that wants to start. Alright, so here we can actually cast out to the AirPlay Bluetooth device, and it just automatically picks AirPlay. So here's a little switching screen. I'll pick the Pioneer tape unit, switch back to the app, and here we go. So the it will actually go ahead and play through the unit itself. So to adjust volume, you would go back to your app, and you can adjust volumes here with the app. Alright, so in this case, let's go back to our YouTube video and we'll start it up. Again, this iPad is kind of old, so it's a little slow and clunky, but it does work. So I adjusted the volume on the app. It's a lot louder, as you can see. So I found that the streaming portion works a little bit better through the Apple side of things, and I do like that. So let's just kind of switch back to Pandora here, and we'll just pick another radio station. It'll start playing. There are stars. As you can see, we've got our volume here. We'll take that back down, and it's a nice clean interface. It really does work quite well. The Bluetooth, while it's not something that I use on a regular basis, is quite good. You get good range with the Bluetooth app or the Bluetooth streaming, and I really can say that it works quite well. I haven't had any lockups or issues with the app itself, so I've been very impressed with that. So there's a kind of a taste for how this app works and what you can do with it, how it might interact with your handheld devices. So thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one. In the Android environment, if you're using, let's say, YouTube, you are not able to, at this time, you're not able to actually cast out to this device. So it cannot, let's see, why is this doing this? Go away, go away. Come on, Android. So I don't have the ability to cast to this device. So in this instance, I would go into my 4Stream app, and I would flick to the right twice, and I would go to Bluetooth. Okay, so once I've selected Bluetooth, you heard it kind of make some nice little beeps, and it's off and running. So in that case, I can actually cast this out through Bluetooth, and there you have it. So it's running through Bluetooth just fine. So on the Android, you are not able to cast through the Android operating environment. It's a little bit different on the app. So in this section, I'm going to go through and show you guys just how two units can work together, both separately as well as together in sync. So with that, I'm going to start recording my screen, and I'll show you the interface, the 4Stream interface. Alright, so right now I'm in two different zones, completely separate from each other. And what I'll do is I'll start some music on one zone, and we're playing these speakers here currently. I'm in my kitchen, so I've got a second zone set up in my kitchen for an in-ceiling speaker set, and I'll get that one started here in a second. Alright, so here we go. You can hear that one separately, and then we'll switch back over to this one. You can hear that one separately. Okay, so that's probably not the mode you're going to be using all the time. I know in my house I'd like to kind of synchronize. I'd really like to synchronize all the speakers every now and then, like at a party or something like that. So place your finger on one zone, drag it to the other zone, and drop it. And in a second, it'll announce that it's synchronized, and you can then play your music through all zones all at the same time, and they're actually synchronized, and there's no lag or anything like that. So let's see if we can try this again here. There we go. This time it worked. I was dragging the wrong one. So as soon as this...
Playback in sync.
There we go. Playback in sync. And as soon as my app comes back, there we go. Alright, so now we're in multi-room mode successfully. What I'll do is go into that player, and I'll just play that. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but it's on both speaker systems. So I'm going to turn it down overall. There we go. And then I'll individually control the zones. So you can actually control the volume in each one of the zones easily. Okay, so this one song is now playing over both sets of speakers, but I can still control them individually. So I'm going to turn one down, the Pioneer tape. There you go for the kitchen. And I'll bring up the tape. Okay, so you can hit pause all if that makes sense. Just hit pause all down at the bottom. It pauses everything in the system. Play all, and off it goes again. I don't know if you can hear it or not, but all the music from these speakers and the kitchen speakers are directly in sync. I'm not hearing any kind of lag between the different systems, so it doesn't have any kind of a weirdness going room to room. So that, in short, is what I wanted to show you guys. Okay, so was this a perfect product? It was not a perfect product. I did run into one issue where it would not wake up from sleep mode. I was able to do a workaround with playing a little bit of music through Bluetooth. It would then wake up, and then I was able to stream to it. I'm working through tech support right now to figure out whether that's a firmware update issue or something going on in my network that I'm unaware of, but I did bump into that. Other than that, I thought the application worked very well, pretty simple to use. It seemed like it was pretty well ironed out, didn't really have any glitches per se. It definitely was a little smoother, I would say, on an Apple versus an Android, but that's pretty typical, so no big surprise there. So again, I think this is a fantastic board. I think it's a fantastic idea, putting together something like this that's so versatile that you can really put it in just about anything, right? So again, love it. You can get it on Amazon. I'll put links to the kit and to the board itself, straight from Arylic, right on Amazon. So, okay, so in this wrap-up section, I'm just going to kind of go over everything that we've talked about in brief. And so is this device an audiophile quality device? And I would say this does not really fit that mold. It sounds very good. I would say it sounds as good as most of the CD players that I've been around. And it's got a nice warm sound, right? So it really does sound good. It doesn't sound digital or nasty or anything like that. The second thing I really like about this board is that it's a very simple design. What do I mean by that? I mean, it's got everything built into one board. You don't have to go out and piece part, DACs and all that kind of stuff. It's all right in the single board. So from that perspective, it does a fantastic job. It's got Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, it's got the speaker power amplifier in it, and you just don't have to mess with a lot of stuff. So it's really almost a plug-and-play device. You don't have to work with an operating system. It's just you turn it on, it does its update, and that's pretty much it. So I really love that aspect of it. You don't have to put it together, you don't have to build it. Some people maybe go through the Raspberry Pi methodology by putting an audio hat on top of that and running an OS and your and your player and so on. In that environment, that's all well and good, but if you want something that's already built for you and it just works, this puppy works out of the box. So the other things I like about it is it's got a nice app. It's easy to use. It's got a nice multi-zone capability that I really like for larger sound stages, if that's what you're looking for, or maybe you've got a party going on or what have you. I think this board is fantastic for unusual projects. As you can see here, I took two radically different approaches to putting together something for my home system, or well, what should I say, my in-ceiling speakers versus something I'm going to put in my office that looks nice, and it's got a nice cabinet to it, and it kind of blends in with some of the other equipment I've got in there. So you've really got a lot of different things you can do with this product. So at the end of the day, I love this product. I think it's a good buy, and for the price point, you're in good shape. So thanks for watching, and have a great day.